All right, so today on our October 2021 office hours call, we're going to be covering a number of really great items with you. So first of all, we're going to be going over a number of really great workflow enhancements. Secondly, we'll be going over a number of big new changes we have to our notes and some enhancements you're going to love there. Following that, we're going to get into tagging in notes. You might have been playing with this already, but you might not know all the great ways you can tag things in your FuseDesk app. We'll be going over snoozing and resnoozing cases and some great changes we've had there recently as well. And we're also going to be going over a Zapier. If you love to zap, you're going to really dig what we have coming up on how you can use Zapier with FuseDesk, with Keep, with Infusionsoft, with your calendaring and scheduling, and so much more. You're going to love that when we get to that. And lastly, we'll be talking about a number of great changes we've had to our reporting. So with that, a few quick things. One is you'll be able to text and SMS your questions to us as we go. You can also just use the comments here below as you watch the live stream here or on the replay and ask your questions there. My team and I will be happy to get back to you and address any of those questions you have. So without further ado, let's hop on in. Workflow enhancements in FuseDesk. If you haven't used workflows before, in a nutshell, this lets you have a really powerful Kanban-like board to manage different workflows you might have. This can be used for your sales pipelines, for client work orders, project management, or just organizing your cases. A lot of our partners love using this for their client work, so they can manage multiple projects for their clients. Other folks who have sales teams will organize their sales workflows in FuseDesk. If you have any sort of process where you move something in a linear fashion through it, workflows are really great for that. One of the big powerful differences between how you would use workflows in FuseDesk versus, for example, in a dedicated project management system or a Kanban board system is that every single one of these items or cards here on a workflow in FuseDesk is actually a case. That means that this case ties back to a contact in your CRM. So if you have a contact in Keep, for example, they can have multiple projects or cards. And as you move those cards around in your workflow, you can actually run automations both in FuseDesk externally as well as in Keep or your CRM for that contact. No other system so deeply integrates to your CRM like we do, where every single one of these cases as they move around can actually run automations in the CRM and internally here in your help desk and messaging platform. So what's new in workflows that we're going over today? Well, a ton of new stuff. We're going to be going through grouping, a grouping option you have for your workflows, as well as how you can collapse your grouped rows and view your different case counts. You can also work with your unassigned emails right inside of your workflows in FuseDesk. And lastly, really powerful for our teams is creating new cases in FuseDesk right from a workflow. So let's jump into what that actually looks like. So inside of FuseDesk, on your left-hand side, you'll see there's workflows here in your navigation. You simply click on workflows, and that's going to open up this view. We have a few default workflows that are preloaded into your app. You can, of course, create new ones here. So this example I have for you here is a widget company that handles widget sales. So they have a sales pipeline. In FuseDesk, you can have as many workflows as you want. They can be private just to you or shared with your team. And as an administrator, you can create and share those different workflows for your team to use. So you might have, for example, a sales workflow, you might have an onboarding workflow, you might have just a customer support workflow and so much more. And you simply add and edit those right here. So let's go ahead and actually edit this workflow. One of the new options I want to share with you is your ability to group your different cases. So right now, grouping is disabled, which is the default. But you can turn on grouping by rep. So for example, if you're a sales team, this is a really handy way for you to, let me turn this off, for you to see how your sales team is doing and who has what cases and where. So right now we've organized this by sales reps. You can see my team here is Don, Susie, and the dude. And you can now get a feel for how many different sales cases are in the pipeline and where they are in that process. And of course, you can not only drag and drop between your columns here, you can also drag and drop between your rows. So in this case, if we wanted to move the sales opportunity over between Susie and Don, we simply drag and drop that up to Don's row, and that all gets recorded right on the case. As you have these different rows, you can go ahead and collapse this down. And when you do, we'll show you right here in parentheses how many cases are being hidden right now. And so you can open that up and expand that and actually see what cases are there. This is really helpful for our larger teams or for our teams that have a lot of different cases or projects or things in flight at any given moment. That way, as you have a ton of rows, you can collapse those more easily. Beyond just organizing by rep, you can also organize by assigned department. In this case, in this workflow, we're looking at just our sales cases. So assigned department won't help us here. But if you have, for example, let's say a tier 1 and tier 2 support team, you can have a support view, and you can then see which cases are in tier 1 versus tier 2, and simply drag and drop to escalate cases as you need. You can also organize your rows by case status. What this does is this will show you your new, open, and snooze cases, or whatever filter you have here for case statuses. And again, simply changing a status is as easy as dragging a case between these different rows, and that'll go ahead and change that status. The last one I want to show you here is really cool. You can actually organize your cases here in a workflow by the contact. So if you work with multiple clients and you have perhaps a smaller client base, but do project-based work like many of our partners do, you can organize your cases here by case contact. This will let you see what is in flight for a given client at any given time. So let's say you're an organization where you do content writing or SEO management or CRM management, whatever, right? You can now have your client projects workflow and organize this right by client. So you might have a column over here instead of hot prospect. You might have that as not yet started, in process, client review, and completed. And you can then simply look at how many projects a different client has, grab one from the to-do column, move it into in process, and go from there. Really helpful for those client-based project works. All right. So if we turn off our grouping and go back to, let's say, a typical sales workflow, we have a really great new option here, which allows you to view your unassigned emails right in a workflow. So now, instead of jumping over to your unassigned email queue and then into your case queues, you can simply view all your unassigned emails live as they come in right here in your workflow, and then drag that email into a column to assign it. So let's say I have the sales email in here from Billy. We can move that right into a hot prospect or move it to in process, quoting, or wherever that should go. And of course, you have more powerful options. You can just right click on any item to choose to assign it somewhere else, or even ignore it if it's spam or not a case. And all that's done right here from within your workflows. The last thing I want to share with you here, as we're looking at workflows, is you can actually create a new case right from your workflows. So let's say, for example, you have a call that comes in and you want to create a new case for that inbound phone call that you're now actively quoting that client in this example workflow. You simply come over here, you can click on new case, and that'll bring you right into our new case workflow. And everything that needs to be preset for it to show up where you want it to will already be preset. For example, in that last workflow, that was restricted to sales cases and the column was quoting. So we go ahead and pre-fill those out and preset those for you. That way, when you create this new case, when that's all done, it'll show up in the right column. So let's go ahead and try that out. We'll go ahead and link this up to Alice. There's Alice. And Alice needs 15 widgets. We can come in here. Alice is looking for 15 more widgets for delivery on Monday. There we go. All right. We simply log this as a call now. And this case shows up right here in that workflow, right in the column where we chose to add new. So those are some of the great new changes we have over in workflows. You can group your cases, you can collapse those rows, you can show your case counts in your group rows, even view and manage your unassigned emails right from a workflow and create a new case in that column. Those are some of the workflow enhancements we have for you. So with that, let's take a look at what's next. Note enhancements. A ton has changed in FuseDesk with how you can use notes. And let's take a look at what some of those new changes are. First and foremost, you now have the ability to have rich notes within FuseDesk. That means you can have lists, you can bold items, italicize more. You can even attach files to your notes and embed images right inside your notes in FuseDesk. You can also set your default notes templates for your department for new as well as existing cases. And then we even have tagging, which we'll get into in just a moment here. So with that, let's take a look at what's inside. We have our cases here, and let's pull up Bob's case as an example. So simply by clicking on a note, you can add a new note here. I have a draft note. Let me go ahead and we can get rid of that draft, and I'll show you what we can do here. So you saw we can simply type in our title here, and in our body, like I mentioned, you have rich notes. So we can go ahead and type in text here. For example, we can put in a heading. For example, let's say our agenda of what you want to cover on that call. You can then put in an item of what you're covering. Delivery timelines, deliverables, budget, and whatever else you might want to cover, right? All of this is available for you, with hotkeys as well to bold, italicize, underline. You can have bolded lists, numbered lists, and more. You even have the ability to embed images directly in your note templates. So if we go ahead and choose this, we can drop in an image right into your note. Beyond that, I mentioned you can attach files. This is really helpful. Again, if you need to figure out PDFs that go along with a note, you simply come in here. You can choose your PDF and attach that right to your note. You can attach images, so we can come in here and we already have that one. We can put an image in here as an attachment, and then we go ahead and save this. We can log it as a phone call. This will now save, and we show the embedded image right here in that note. You can then click on any of these images to open up your Lightbox and view our happy tofu block here. And of course, download PDFs or any other attachments you have. This gives you and your team the ability to attach files to a case that fits your business model. For example, it might be quotes and estimates. It might be a Word doc version of something that you're preparing for a client. Might be proofs if you're doing printing and things like that, and so much more. Now, you might be wondering, this is great that I can add all these note templates, these notes on the fly, but what about note templates? Well, great news. If you go over in your app and you head to templates, we can head into note templates here, and we can have really powerful note templates just like this, using our full rich text. So you can use in your note templates merge fields, right? So we have a merge field for our first name here. Inside the note body, you can put in merge fields as well here. Any custom fields you have in your CRM are also accessible here, and more. This also lets you have rich media in your note templates. For example, if there's a standard image, perhaps a workflow or a process, you can again choose to put that right here inside of your note template. All right. Once we have this note template all figured out, we can go use this in some really helpful places. If we head into our departments and we head into choose a department to edit, you can now set 2 different note templates. Your first note template is going to be what we use as a default template when adding a note to an existing case, right? So if you have an existing case, we might choose the left voicemail template here because it's an existing case that you're following up on. Secondarily, you can choose what note template to use as your default template for new cases in a department. So let's say you have a new template that you, or a common workflow is you have phone calls that come in, and you want to be able to add a unique note template for inbound phone calls. You can set a separate note template here. Let's just call this client pre-screening call. All right. Now, when we go over here, and this is our support department, we create a new case, and that was our support department, I believe. Well, you get the idea. When you create a new case, that note template comes up. And if we go over to our support department and we pull this up, when we click to add a note, our default template now is whatever template we chose. And so this will all get pre-filled in when we add this and save it. And what's powerful about that is this empowers your team, again, if you have a work process or a flow they commonly use, to go ahead and use that. So These are a number of the powerful new things you can do with your note templates, from having lists, bold, italics, and more right inside of your notes, to adding attachments, embedded images, even using rich note templates and setting those default note templates at the department level. Now, one more item I promised we'd get to with notes that's really powerful is tagging right inside of your FuseDesk cases. So tagging does a number of great things. You're probably used to using an @ sign and tagging people in different apps, and you can now do that in FuseDesk too, to tag a colleague. You can also configure your tagging notifications. You can even tag cases both by typing and searching or pasting in a case reference. Contacts are tagged as well. And then for those 3 different kinds of objects you can tag, we even have what we call our hover cards. So let's take a look at what that looks like. We'll head back here. Let's get to Bob's case. Where's Bob's case? Here's Bob's case. When we have a note, we can simply come in here, and we even give you a hint, type the @ symbol to tag someone in your team. So I can say something like, Kelly, please take a look at this when you have a moment, right? As soon as I go ahead and save this note, Kelly's going to get a notification that she's been tagged in a note. So you can use this to tag colleagues, right? Sometimes, depending on your workflow, you can think about this as being like a CC for your notes to keep someone in the loop. That way, even a case that's not assigned to someone, they can still be notified about things going on with that case. So you might, again, use one of your standard templates here, and then, put in your colleagues here. And now when you save this, they'll go ahead and get notified of that. Super helpful. In terms of tag notifications, when we go here to your profile, you'll have a new chat notification a tagged on a case notification option here. And you can choose how you want to be notified when you're tagged. Maybe you don't want emails about that. You just want to be notified in app or with a native desktop notification. Or maybe if you're an administrator, you're not logged into FuseDesk all day, but you instruct your team, hey, if you want me to know about something, go ahead and tag me. And so you'll turn on your email notification. So when you're tagged, you'll get that notification. Okay. You can also tag cases. So you might come in here and say, you might want to have them see a different case. And you simply can type the # that tells FuseDesk you're going to be referencing a case, just like you can see this case ID up here, right? So we can see case. And as soon as you start typing here, we will autocomplete for you the case reference. So if we do that case, you again see this hover card for this tells you what that case is about. Hovering over a rep tells you everything you need to know about that rep. And again, we even have contact tags, which I'll show you here in just a moment. Case references can also be pasted in. So let's say you have a case reference between 2 cases. You don't want to merge them, but you need to cross-reference them. You can go ahead and simply just paste from your clipboard, and we detect that, and again, convert that into a tag for you. All right. The last one is I mentioned contact tags. When you go ahead and relink a case here, we'll go ahead and let's search for Bob. There's Bob. As soon as we relink this case, you can see in the case history, we actually tag who the contact got relinked from and to. So you can hover over those contacts and see the difference between those 2 contacts. And again, click to view them, open the contact up, and more. All right from the case, providing you the information you need to jump up and back without having to leave a case. So that is case tagging in FuseDesk. You can add those tags on new cases as well as on notes in existing cases to keep your team in the loop and get the information you need right at your fingertips. All right, let's get into snoozing cases. As you know, in FuseDesk, you have sort of 3 standard statuses for a case. A case can be new, opened, or closed, but you also have the ability to snooze a case, right? Sometimes you know that there's no action needed on a case for a certain period of time. Maybe a customer gets back to you and says, hey, thanks so much. Can you follow up with me on Thursday, right? Snoozing gives you the ability to mark a case as not needing any attention until a future date. And there are a few great ways you can do that. What I want to share with you is some of the enhancements we have to snoozing now. Not only can you snooze right from a case queue or a workflow, but you can snooze from a case, which you probably already have been doing. You also can re-snooze an existing case. And we're going to dive into some really sort of advanced functionality of showing how you can snooze from automations, as well as change the snooze status or run automations based on the snooze status. So let's jump back in here to our case. Right from the case view, when you go to change your status, you have the option here to snooze a case. Now, by default, we always show you like the same time tomorrow. That's sort of a standard one, a 24-hour snooze, one of the most commonly used. The next is we look 2 days out. So we'll give you sort of like a 48-hour snooze. And then lastly, we give you a 1-week snooze. If none of those three really fit what you're looking for, maybe you have an onboarding call and you know exactly what date and time that's going to be, and you want to snooze until then, you can simply choose other. This lets you choose a future date as well as a specific time of day, and we'll go ahead and snooze that case until that day and time. All right. Now, what we do in FuseDesk is we remember that last custom time you used. So when you go to snooze a case again, we now have this as sort of a preset next snooze time. What's helpful with this is, let's say it's a Friday and you're heading out of the office early and you're like, yeah, I want to get back to a bunch of my cases on Monday when I get back in at 2 o'clock that afternoon after a super long weekend, right? This will help you to more easily snooze to the last time that you snoozed a case to that wasn't one of these default times. Really helpful for remembering that. Now, in terms of re-snoozing, let's say this case is already snoozing. You say, you know, I want to change what time that's going to be snoozed until. You can simply come in here and choose a different time, and that'll actually go ahead and re-snooze that case. All right. Now, everything I've just mentioned here, we remember all that. So when we come over here and we want to snooze a case, all those options we were just working with, right from a workflow or a case queue, you have accessible to you, including that custom time we just set there. Right? And let's say if you were organizing this pipeline and you had a row or a column for snooze cases, simply dropping a case in that snooze column will now actually prompt you for when to snooze that case as well. So if you want to bear with me, we're going to go into two really advanced things you can do in FuseDesk with case snoozing. All right. One is we can actually set up automations. We go to settings and automations, and we can say when a case status is changed, and we can set this for snoozed. We can say when the status is changed, and we can have a condition for if the case status is now snoozed to do something, right? So you could say when a case is snoozed, go ahead and send out an email that says, I'll follow up with you in a week, right? You can even get fancier and say when a case is snoozed and the previous case status was new. So now this is saying when a case has gone from new to snooze, run a certain automation. You can even flip these to say, if the case status is now new, but the case was snoozed, there we are. So if a case was snoozed and was woken up to a new case, you can run automation here. For example, you can say, notify me on Slack about the case waking up, right? And the last thing I want to show you that you can do with snoozing is you can actually run an automation to snooze a case, right? So you might have an automation here. Let's try this. Let's say we're going to run an automation when a certain note template is used. We were just showing those really powerful note templates we can use. Snooze voicemail. Snooze after voicemail. Right? So we can create an automation here for after a certain note template is used. Boom. So right here, when anyone now uses this left voicemail template, you can go ahead and change the status to snoozed, right? So now all your team does is uses a certain template to indicate they've left a voicemail. They click save or add that note, and you can now say, wake up in 3 days, but not on a weekend, and have it wake up for 10 Los Angeles. Right? So now your sales team picks up the phone, they look at a case, pick up the phone, they make that phone call. The default template is already that voicemail template, which they could change, but if they leave that, as soon as they click boom to add that note gets saved and the case automatically gets snoozed for 3 days, waking up only on a weekday at 10 a.m. in the morning. Super powerful to have these kinds of automations right in FuseDesk. Combine the note templates we have with case snoozing, case snooze automations, and your workflows. Your sales team is super empowered now to do a lot just by a few simple clicks. All of this, by the way, is of course saved right back to your CRM, and the full case history and accountability of what's going on is right here in FuseDesk as well as inside your CRM. So that, in a nutshell, is a lot of the powerful functionality you have with snoozing cases. Next up, I want to share with you one of the biggest announcements we've had here recently that I'm really excited about, which is our partnership and deep integration with Zapier. Zapier enables you to connect FuseDesk to over 4,000 additional apps, including all your favorite third-party apps, from your CRM, your calendaring system, your documents, and everything that you have in your app ecosystem. You can now run all kinds of complex automations and integrations from and to FuseDesk and thousands of your favorite apps. What's great is this lets you put in complicated and powerful automations without needing code. It empowers your team to put automations in place without needing a developer. So with Zapier for FuseDesk, we connect you up to all your favorite apps. You can integrate deeply, automate, and innovate with really unique workflows that fit your business model. So what are some things that Zapier and FuseDesk can do together? Well, what's great is we have a dozen or two different Zap templates for you that you can just click, configure, and use. But of course, you can create your own for what makes sense in your business. So you'll find in two places. One is if you go to fusedesk.com/Zapier, right? Or right inside of your app here to your automations page, you'll see a link right here to start using Zapier with FuseDesk. And you'll even see these different templates here that you can simply click on, use this Zap to start using that Zap in your business. But of course, there's thousands more, and you can always link right over to create your own integration. So what's that look like? Well, right from the, when you choose to integrations, for example, you can choose FuseDesk and anything else. And Zapier will actually show you some innovative ways to connect these. Apps in Zapier have what are called actions as well as triggers. So when this happens, that's a trigger. Automatically do this, that's an action, all right? With FuseDesk, all of our triggers are instant live triggers. What that means is as soon as it happens, we notify Zapier. So instead of polling, meaning querying our API for a change or something new over every 5 minutes, every half hour, or something else, which is a waste of your resources, a waste of our resources, and just inefficient and slow, you can get instant notifications. And you'll see that here under all these different triggers. There's this little instant badge that Zapier has. All of these apps are instant. As soon as this thing happens, we notify Zapier and boom, that automation and action gets to run. So let's say you're working with Calendly for your calendar. A lot of us use that. But of course, Appointment Core, which we personally use and love, or Schedule Once, or really any of these all integrate beautifully, right? A common thing is somebody schedules an appointment with you. So you can say, when this happens, an invitee is created, meaning someone has created an event with you, automatically do this. In this case, create a FuseDesk case. So now what you can do is when someone schedules an event, you can create that placeholder case. Let's say you do onboarding calls and clients want to schedule their onboarding call. Now, as soon as somebody self-schedules an onboarding call, you now have a FuseDesk case to manage that conversation, keep the notes from your phone call and the onboarding, and keep a record of that in FuseDesk and inside your CRM, right? You can do so much more. For example, if somebody cancels or reschedules an event, right? We simply change what this event is, right? So let's say somebody cancels their event with you. You can find that matching case in FuseDesk and update that case. So there's a record of the cancellation. Now you're able to keep your systems in sync just based on what somebody else is doing in a third-party tool or a third-party system. This is hugely powerful for deep integrations, again, to thousands of different applications. So what are some other ideas and ways you might go ahead and use this? Well, you can create a FuseDesk case, like I mentioned, when an event is scheduled. You can create a case when a CRM contact is tagged. Now, instead of building out a FuseDesk automation with an HTTP post inside of Keep, you can simply apply a tag to a contact in Keep and have Zapier create that case right inside of FuseDesk just by you tagging a contact inside of Keep. You can update a case when an event is rescheduled. You could get an SMS text notification when a FuseDesk case is created, right? You can send a Slack message to your team to welcome new reps. So when you add a new rep inside of FuseDesk, boom, we can automatically send a notification out to your team to welcome them. You can even move a case through a workflow just by tagging a contact in your CRM. So you think about those powerful workflows we went over earlier, you can actually move a contact and their card in their case through a workflow in FuseDesk just by tagging them in your CRM, or just by anything else happening in thousands of other applications. So again, to see an example, see some examples and start using Zap templates, you can go to fusedesk.com/Zapier, and that's going to get you access to a lot of those Zap templates that we were just talking about. All right, let's jump into reports. Inside of FuseDesk, you've used our report system for years. We've had this for a long time, but we've recently gone through a really big overhaul visually with how reports look and how they function inside of FuseDesk. It's the same reports you know and love. They're just far easier to use. With our new reporting UX, it's easier for you to find the reports you're looking for. It's easier for you to access and use the different filters and options. It's easier for you to switch reports, and even easier for you to export your reports. So you have access to all the data you need to make decisions. There's no value in reporting on a KPI or a metric unless you use it to make a decision. So let's look at what some of those changes look like. First of all, once you navigate to reports inside of your FuseDesk app, you'll find that selecting a report is even easier. We now group them by the category, for example, email, case, messaging, and so much more. And as you mouse over these different choices, we'll tell you a little bit about what that report is, so you have an idea of what you're looking for. As soon as you do that, simply changing a report, all you do is click back up here to change to your different report. We maintain all your filters, settings, and options all across this top row here. So as you change your reports, we keep the settings. So for example, if you're looking here for data for the past 90 days grouped monthly, you can cycle through a few different reports, and we'll keep those settings for you. And again, if you filter, which I'll go over in just a second, we maintain that as you change your reports. So if you have a meeting coming up where you're doing your quarterly team review, you could knock this down to show me just my support cases for the past 90 days grouped monthly, and then pull your different reports. As you configure your report, you have the option for most reports to group. And so simply choosing this group by option here will let you choose to group by department or rep. As you group, we'll go ahead and change this legend up here to show you, to give a unique color to each of the categories you chose, whether that's rep or department. And we'll even show you your total or average, depending on the report, for those different categories. So at a glance, you're able to see what those overall numbers are for this entire time range. And that's available right up top in that report. Filtering is easier than ever. Simply by choosing reps or departments up here, we'll let you choose which departments you want to filter for, as well as which reps you'd like to filter for. Easier than ever before, you can now toggle on different reps and departments. You can select all, select none. And for your reps, you have the option of hiding inactive or showing inactive reps. Typically, especially for our customers who've been with us a long time, if you have inactive reps from years ago, you don't necessarily want to see them when you're filtering your report for more recent data. So you can still show those reps for historical purposes, but the default is to only be working with your active reps. And again, you simply activate those filters by clicking on all reps or all departments here, and that'll open up these dropdowns to choose which reps and which departments you want to filter for. Exporting is easier than ever. When looking at any of the reports, you'll have an export button here you can click. Clicking on that will open up 4 different options for you. You can export this data in JSON if you're a developer or want to do something more powerful with that. You can download a CSV of whatever data you're looking at, so you can pull that into a spreadsheet or a third-party system. You can actually save an image, whatever you're looking at here. We can just save, so you have like a PNG file on your computer. You can drop it in a report or something else. Of course, you can always just screenshot too. And lastly, you can view the API URL. Some of our customers have really fancy third-party dashboards that they use, and you can view the API URL, which will get you that JSON data, and your developer can plug that into whatever tool you want to pull that live data, not just a snapshot, but the API URL will actually always pull in fresh data. So whenever you load that URL, it'll show you the latest data. So that way, if you have, for example, a relative time range like past 90 days or past 30 days, we'll go ahead and just show you the most recent data at all times. So again, that's all accessible from this report button here. So these are just a number of the great new report enhancements we have available for you, with more coming soon. So with that, let's take a look at any of our live Q&A that's coming here to make sure we're addressing your questions as those happen. And there's a few ways that questions can come in. So let me take a look-see here. Got it. So we have a question that was texted into us here, having to do with the reports and some of those options on that. So let me just go back here. That might be the best way to show this. Got it. So the question was, in terms of time ranges, how that works. So the time range selector here lets you choose a relative range. So you can say last 30 days, last 90 days, etc. And then you also have your grouping, your time period. So your time period is going to be daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, hourly, daily, and you choose which way you want to represent your data. Where that's really helpful is if you're looking at yearly, you don't need to see your data daily, but if you're looking at just the past month, you might want to see your daily trends, right? So you might see you have lower case volume on the weekends than during the week. Hourly is really helpful because what hourly is going to let you do is that lets you see your data grouped by the hour of the day, so you can figure out when you might need to staff. So you can say, show me when cases are opened, but break that down hourly, right? And so you might say, you know what, we actually get a surprising volume of cases at 7 o'clock local PM. We should consider having staff coverage for those hours to handle those cases. Or you might look at case assignment time by hour of the day. And that's going to let you see when you might want to staff up to have cases distributed or assigned more easily during what you might consider off hours, but are really on hours for your customers. Okay, good. I have another question over here regarding Zapier and the integrations we connect to. Yeah, so I mentioned earlier here, but let me pull this back up. You're able to, if you go to FuseDesk.com/Zapier, that'll show you the instructions for how to actually connect us up. You'll need to create an API key to work with Zapier. It has the ability to create and manage your webhooks. That's how we do the instant notifications. And then you'll actually configure all the automation instead of in FuseDesk. You'll actually configure that over in Zapier. All right. FuseDesk is available even on free Zapier plans. So if you have a free plan with them, you can still configure and use FuseDesk Zaps. Of course, if you want the more powerful functionality that Zapier has, like team plans and more Zaps and all that, then you'll use a paid Zapier plan as well. But all the configuration management of that is done in the drag and drop builder with Zapier. You can use our Zap templates to sort of have a jumping off point. So you can see how you might configure a Zap to FuseDesk. But of course, you can create your own from scratch as well. You have access to all the merge fields from your triggers right inside of your actions, whether that's the contact's name, their email address, their CRM contact ID, and all that kind of stuff. So good. I see a great question here that just came in from Jordan regarding report integrations with third-party systems, specifically Graphly. Yes, we're actually going to be announcing this on an upcoming office hours call. So thank you for that that teaser question there, Jordan. We do actually integrate beautifully with Graphly. In Graphly, when you go into your options and you have your integrations for third-party applications, FuseDesk is actually one of the few third-party applications you can connect to pull in all the reports that you see inside of FuseDesk. You can actually view right on your Graphly dashboard. So that was a little out of scope of today's call, but you have access to that in your Graphly app if you're using Graphly. On our next office hours call, we're actually going to jump into that even further. So great question, Jordan. Good. So I think that about covers it on today's call. We actually covered a ton here. Let me get to my slides. We went over workflow enhancements, our note enhancements, tagging in notes, snoozing and resnoozing cases, connecting to Zapier, reporting enhancements, and so much more, including your live Q&A. Of course, for those of you watching this replay on our site, YouTube, Facebook, anywhere, feel free to comment, leave your questions, or as always, you can always text us your questions. That's that 415-429-3375 number. And we'll get your questions anytime, and we're always happy to answer your questions, and we love all those. So with that, that concludes this month's office hours calls, including your awesome live Q&A. I want to thank you for joining us. Without you watching this live and texting your questions and commenting your questions, we wouldn't have the great calls that we do have and the wonderful content we have available for you. So we will look forward to seeing you on our next office hours call. Thank you for joining us today.